Welcome to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth, bringing you interviews with top business professionals, empowering you to understand our current business climate and the successes and struggles other business professionals have overcome. Here's your host, Nick Bour.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast. Today, I have on with us Ana Katz, and I'm really excited to talk to her because, I've talked to a lot of digital marketing companies, not only within my business, but also on the podcast so far, and I think a lot of them have unique skill sets and unique value that they're bringing to their current clients and prospective clients. So I always feel that I want to bring on people that have different expertise, even if they're within the same industry. So Ana, I appreciate you coming on and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me here. Very excited.
So, Ana, let's talk about, I always start with, tell me a little bit about your background, and then let's kind of hop right into what is your personal entrepreneurial journey looked like, and what's your story there?
Yes. Oh, I love talking about this. So I am Ana Katz. I am the owner of Ana Katz Digital, a digital marketing agency helping online business owners. And my background, I don't know if you can hear my accent, Nick, but I'm from originally Colombia, South America. I came to the United States 13 years ago because I needed to learn English to graduate from college. And while I was here, I fell in love with my now husband. And we were debating, should I stay, should I go? We decided I had to go back home to finish school. We dated long distance for a year and a half. And then I came back to the United States with a fiancé visa after I graduated from college.
Wow.
So here's where the story begins.
All right. Let's hear it.
There we go. So I had two options, right, when I came back. I didn't have a work permit. So my two options were get a job as a nanny or get experience in marketing, because that's what I wanted my career to be. I graduated from business administration with a minor on marketing. And when I was back home, everybody was like, why are you going to go to the United States? You can never do what you went to school for. You're probably going to be a nanny. So my two options were quick money, be a nanny, or get an unpaid internship for marketing. So at the time, it was a hard decision to make because obviously we needed the money.
Right.
But I decided to go for the unpaid internship because I knew if I didn't do that, I would just stay as a nanny. So I got a job at a media buyer agency as an unpaid intern. And then I was there for 6 months. And then after 6 months of being there, I got my job permit. And the owner, the day after I got my job permit, she had no idea I got the job permit, and they offered me a job as an associate.
Wow.
Because they obviously liked what I was doing. And it was really funny because my English wasn't great at the time. It was very broken. Okay. And I was very shy because I was very insecure of how I would sound. I thought people weren't going to take me serious. So she offered me a job, and I took it, and I'm like, oh, so funny, perfect timing because I just got my job permit. So I started as an associate, as a marketing associate. When I was doing the unpaid internship, I was doing Facebook ads and helping with Google ads, and I'm very analytical, and I loved the reporting and all that included with the digital. When I got hired for radio and TV buying, and I didn't love that part of the business.
Okay.
So I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like. And at the time, we were in Baltimore. My whole family was in Colombia, South America, and my husband's family was in New York. And I started to feel very lonely. And I told my husband, we either move to Colombia or we move to New York, but I don't want to stay in Baltimore. So I worked at that media buying agency for 2 years, and we decided to move to New York. And I said to myself, if I move to New York, I'm going to find a job in fashion and I'm going to find a job in digital marketing. fashion because my whole family back in Colombia, they're all entrepreneurs. So I come from an entrepreneurial background. And my family, one of the businesses that they have is a wholesale fashion business for women.
Okay.
So I loved it. And I knew I loved digital marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads. So I told myself to find a job. My husband was the first one to find a job here. He was a teacher. So we moved here, looked for a job. And one day, a recruiter emailed me with something that seemed like she copied and pasted my resume for a fashion business, medium-sized fashion business here in New York that were looking for marketing associates. So I interviewed with the recruiter, and then she loved me. And then I think 2 days later, I interviewed with the owner of the company. By the time I got to the house, they called me with offering me the job I applied for.
Wow, that's
so
great.
I was so excited. Yes, they had, at the time when I started with them, they were doing $300,000 online through the e-commerce, and they had 3 brick-and-mortar stores. So I started as an associate, and then 2 months after I started my job, I pulled the card that they didn't know I had, and it's my experience in Google Analytics. So I sent them this huge report on how the website was performing, where the traffic was coming from, what efforts we needed to make. And Nick, I started that at the company, and then by the second year there, I was the head of digital marketing and analytics.
Wow.
So they trained me. I've always loved learning, so I got them to pay for my degree, digital marketing degree at Duke University. So and when I did that, I took over I started overseeing the agencies that we had at the time. And I cannot tell you how good that was, because the work that they were doing, there were a lot of things that were wrong. Like the Google AdWords, the campaign wasn't performing good because there were things that they weren't doing right. And we didn't know before that because nobody was overseeing them.
Right. So
I took over Facebook ads because I loved it. It helped the business grow by a lot. But the 5th year when I started, the e-commerce was in revenue $300,000. But the 5th year, we were over $1 million a year for the e-commerce. And we had, I think, 6 brick-and-mortar stores. So I became, after that, the head of e-commerce. So I was overseeing all the digital marketing and the e-commerce team, and I loved it so much. But I had my baby.
Okay.
and unfortunately, one of my husband's sister got ALS. So that gave me a lot of perspective. And I was sitting on my desk, and I saw myself at a desk, a 9-to-5 job. And there was this voice saying, what are you doing? Like, you're going to be stuck at a 9-to-5 for the rest of your life, sitting at a desk where there's so much more outside. And I was making a big impact in this company. So I kept thinking, if I'm doing this for them, why can't I be able to do this for other companies?
Yep.
So a couple months before, I had gone into my boss's office, asked for a raise, and he said no. So I decided to make a big investment on a digital marketing course for helping entrepreneurs open their Facebook ads agency, which was my zone of genius. So I went to my boss's office, and I was like, listen, I'm thinking I'm going to go on my own, and I'm going to open up my own agency. And he was not expecting that. So he said, that was 2018. COVID wasn't a thing. But he said, when a recession happens, consultants are the first one to go. And, starting a business is very hard. I will just hold on. We're so happy with you here. It's been 6 years, blah, blah, blah. He gave me the raise that I asked for. They promoted me to senior. So I was attending all the big meetings. But still, I wasn't 100% sold. So a week after that, I went to him and I said, I want to give this a shot, and I want to go on my own. And I gave them 2 months to find me a replacement. And on my last week working there, he called me into his office and he said, we want to be your first client.
Wow.
So so they were my first clients. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. But Ana, that shows the level of value that they had in you and your ability, that even though you were leaving them and starting your own, he at least had enough respect for you wanting to do it on your own that they came back to you and said, look, we want to be your first client. We see how valuable you are.
Yes, and it's funny because when I was building my agency, I was, I'm all into visualization, and I believe everything is energy, and I'm all into the woo-woo stuff. And I kept thinking, my dream client is my employer. Like, I want clients like them that are not only in for, selling, but they want to help women look beautiful, and they're, amazing employers, and they're growing so fast because their products are great. So they were my dream clients. And it's just so amazing it worked out like that. But here's the thing. They only hire me for my agency, but they hired me because, like you said, I became irreplaceable. And they wanted me to keep kind of overseeing the team every week. So every week I will come into the office to have meetings with them for the strategy, mostly for the strategy on how we were going to keep moving forward.
It's interesting because you don't hear this every day, and I can tell you personally, I've been in my industry in financial services for 20 years, and I only personally know of one person that is ironically my bookkeeper, that she used to work at a job, a 9-to-5 job, an employer, that she was head of finance and did all the books. And when she left to start her own bookkeeping company, they ended up hiring her because they valued her so much. And they had tried to replace her twice, and it did not work out. So it's interesting because you don't see that all the time. And not only can you take pride, obviously, in saying, I showed my value to them, and that's why they wanted to hire me, but they also appreciated and valued your leadership and your oversight because they wanted you to continue overseeing some of the staff every week.
Yes, and I think they also appreciated that I was honest with them at the moment I stopped feeling 100% sure about my job, and they appreciated that I was like, listen, I want to go into my entrepreneurial journey and do this. Because one thing they didn't want to do was employees to have their own job and then keep working at the company.
Right.
So yeah.
That's great.
An amazing company.
That's great. And Ana, I can't, what a great story and what a great journey you've had so far. So tell me a little bit about, digital marketing and the different things you're doing from a support perspective with your clients. Tell me how you feel you're different and you're adding additional value than a lot of firms out there.
So this is where it connects with my corporate job and all the experience that I have on not just Facebook ads, but email marketing, Google ads, organic SEO, because when you see other Facebook ads agencies, they focus on Facebook ads, right?
Yep.
They don't care about the other pieces of the puzzle, of the digital marketing puzzle. And here's the thing. When you have very strong, good Facebook ads, but you don't have a strong digital marketing strategy, where you don't have an email marketing strategy, you don't have a good SEO or a good social media presence, your Facebook ads are not going to work.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
You're not walking your customer through a funnel, or your leads through a funnel, or your audience. So here is how I serve my clients the best way possible, because yes, I offer the Facebook ads management for them, but I'm always giving them that support. We meet every 3 weeks to talk about strategy. So I subscribe to their funnels, I follow them on social media, and we're always talking about strategy and giving them feedback on how they can make a strong social media strategy and continue scaling and optimize it. So with all the least growth or audience growth that they're getting from their ads, they can actually convert them into sales. And not only sales, but like very highly engaged customers who refer their friends, you know, or their
Right.
other like entrepreneur friends. So I think that's a very important part of digital marketing that many agencies are missing, because let's be honest, Facebook ads is just one part of the puzzle, and if the other pieces aren't put together, they're not going to work. And this is why we see many, unfortunately, businesses getting burned out by agencies, because like people focus on their zone of genius, and nobody, like people don't, like they don't know about as much as digital marketing. So if they're just focusing on paid advertising, but nobody is telling them that they need to have the other pieces together, they're going to be thinking that Facebook ads don't work for them.
So it's interesting that you say that, and excuse me, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about, you know, my experience and just the different, not only the different people I've interviewed on the podcast so far, but also my experience with my financial planning firm, Inspire Wealth, and the different firms I've talked to. So it is extremely common. A lot of agencies I've talked to, as you just made a comment, that they really just do Facebook ads. And I think a lot of businesses and a lot of different industries, when they have a bad experience with a digital marketing company, yeah, they think one of two things. Either A, Facebook ads doesn't work for me if that's all the agency was doing, or B, that digital agency was just trying to do a money grab. And they were just trying to grab my ad spend, and that was it. And I will tell you firsthand, over the last 3 or 4 years, I have unfortunately, and I guess fortunately at the same time, have had good and bad experiences with different marketing companies myself. And yes, I've lost money working with different firms, but you know what? I've also learned a ton, which is why I can speak intelligently enough, nowhere near you, but intelligently enough on digital marketing and agreeing with you tenfold, that it is not just Facebook ads. It is not just one social media or 2 social media platforms. It's not just SEO. It's not just the website. You have to have a digital marketing strategy that is overseeing everything. And then you have to have the right people in the right seats focusing on things that are their expertise. So whether that's Facebook and Instagram, whether that's organic social media, whether that's SEO in your website, whether that's email marketing, whatever that is, that's so important. And I will tell you again, firsthand from my perspective, so I have a company right now managing my YouTube channel. And I do that specifically because that is a big focus of theirs. That is a big expertise for this agency, is YouTube. And I've talked to, I can't even tell you. I'm gonna approximate and say 3 to 4 dozen digital agencies over the last 3 or 4 years, and they are the only one that focused on YouTube and talked heavily about YouTube and how it's an important piece. And even though for me, I don't necessarily think I'm going to get a client from YouTube, it's brand recognition, it's brand awareness, it grows my following and puts people back in to help SEO and social media and all the other things. But I can't agree with you more in the fact that you have to have a digital marketing strategy as a whole, and then you have the pieces of the puzzle surrounding that, like Facebook or Instagram. So I think your point you made, I think is absolutely spot on, and I can't agree with you more.
Beautiful. And it reminds me when I left my corporate job, and I unfortunately after the pandemic, they needed a lot. My first client, which was my previous employer, my former employer, they needed more support during the pandemic. So there was a thin line between me going there full time or just continuing my entrepreneurial journey. It was like a year and a half after I quit working for them full time as an employee.
Okay.
After I left them. They had to hire 4 different people for what I was covering. And it's because what you're saying, like they had to hire somebody who was an expert on just Facebook ads, and somebody who was an expert on just email, and somebody who's an expert, because they knew that they had to have all the strategy and all the like key people in their place for the strategy to continue working without me. And
right.
yeah, and it's so important. Like you're bringing all this traffic from YouTube. It's so amazing that you're doing that. It's helping you SEO. But if you don't have a way to convert them, then what is YouTube doing for you?
Good point.
Yeah, this is just an example. So one thing that I talk to my clients is, yes, I help them with Facebook ads, but how are we going to get these leads to convert outside Facebook ads?
And that's
because if they don't convert, I'm not doing my job.
Right. And I think that's so important is that, obviously from a business perspective, obviously you're looking for an ROI, you're looking for different areas of growth, whether it's growth of followers, growth of leads, growth of conversions. On that point, everyone's goal might be a little different, but at the end of the day, if you're a business person, you're obviously looking for additional revenue or additional customers because that's why you're in business. So,
yes, and a lot of digital agencies, Facebook ad agencies, will say, "Well, my job is to bring you the leads, and your job is to convert them."
Yeah,
but if the entrepreneur doesn't know how to connect them, how to walk the person through the funnel, it's not gonna work.
Right. Right. No, I completely agree because, again, I do a lot of relating to my industry just because I know it. I've been in it 20 years. But, I'll tell you, I look at prospective clients from my side, on the financial planning side, just because just because a digital company generated a lead for me doesn't mean that they're going to automatically become a client. They need to go in the proper funnel. They need to be nurtured. They need to, because as we all know, when we're talking about, whether you're talking about finances or whether you're talking about, buying windows, if you're a window company, timing is everything. Yes, you have to be top of mind for the consumer when your timing is right, though, because if you generate a lead for a window company and that person is interested in putting new windows in their house, but maybe not today, maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, or maybe when the offer is good in their mind, you have to be top of mind to that consumer from that employer, or they're going to just go to whoever else they get introduced to.
Yes. So,
let's talk about, I think all this is great, and I think you definitely bring a unique perspective, being in the corporate world and, being head of marketing for in the corporate world. That also brings a totally different perspective, and I think that's how you're you're able to add a lot of value for your current clients and potential clients. So let's talk about, we all know Facebook is one of the original social media platforms when it comes to ads and marketing. Let's talk about, we all know Facebook and Instagram have evolved a ton in the last, I'm going to say 3 years, let alone 5 years, maybe even in the last year, they've evolved a ton. Tell me what's working right now and what's not working right now when it comes to Facebook and Instagram for certain businesses, and what you're able to bring to your clients.
Yes, so that's a great question, Nick. Facebook has changed a lot. And when I say Facebook, I also mean Instagram, and this applies also to other social media and digital platforms. They have changed a lot since the iOS 14 rolled out, which is the big privacy policy that they implemented on advertisers, where you can't mostly track people.
Yep.
So it's being, I'm not going to lie, a pain in the butt for advertisers because we've had to pivot. But I always say with pivot comes growth. So before, you were easily able to, like, the targeting on Facebook was way more on point. Like, it was for Facebook ads. You were able to target to the T based on people's interests. Like, Facebook knew more about you than you know more about you.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I would say at the time, because we were able to put cookies everywhere. And if you wanted to find somebody who went to, for example, who went to a CrossFit gym, you could just type in their interest and you will find an audience to advertise to. Things have changed a lot since the iOS 14 rolled out because you're not able to target as a specific audiences, as much of a specific audience as you did before. So right now is more important than ever for business owners to know, truly to know who their audience is, what their interests are, not just the age, not just if it's female or male, not just where they live or basic interests, but like where are they shopping, what motivates them, what worries them. Because right now, the main focus on Instagram, you have to have very strong copy and creative to get people to be interested in your ad. And it's so important to know this, Nick, because if people are getting trained on Facebook, or if you find somebody who's not up to date on Facebook and Instagram, they're going to be applying strategies right now that worked a year ago, but they're not working anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense, especially with, I mean, we all know the evolvement of technology, and it's like the joke is, hey, if you have a laptop or a phone from, 2 months ago, it's already outdated. I got to imagine it goes very similar in lines, maybe even more so with Facebook and Instagram and digital marketing.
Yes, and then here's the other thing that we're dealing with right now. Facebook is trying to copy TikTok on posts going viral and showing your post to a bunch of people who don't know you. So we're finding that businesses that have a strong social media strategy, their organic posts are getting lost because they're showing to people who don't know them. So they have this warm audience where only 2% of their warm audience are seeing their posts. What I mean by a warm audience is their followers.
Wow. So you're telling me if someone posts on Facebook right now, you're telling me that only 2% of their warm audience or their followers are actually seeing their posts?
Yes. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you're on social media, if you go on your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed, you're going to see that you're being served posts from people that you don't even know, and they're no ads.
Right, that's true.
People who you don't know, businesses that you don't know. So here's where Facebook ads are playing a big special role right now, because people don't know this. They think they need, especially business, they think they need a big budget to run Instagram or Facebook ads, but that's not true. You can easily run engagement ads. There are many types of ads. There are conversion ads to get sales or leads. There are video view ads to get more views on your videos, but there are also engagement ads. You can run budgets as low as $10 a month just to get those posts in front of your followers, because your followers are the warm audience that is more likely to convert from you, like easier to buy what you're selling. So I highly recommend businesses to do this, because right now what Facebook is saying, you gotta pay to play.
Right. No, and that I've heard that. I've heard that several times over and over. And this is more of a curiosity for me, but I got to imagine a lot of our listeners and a lot of other people out there would love to know the insight on this as well. So if you're a business that's been in business for a while, but maybe they're newer to the digital marketing space, or maybe they're newer to the social media platforms. What's the effective way to grow your following or your followers across social media at this point, so that when you go back and you're doing ads, that it's actually, you want it to go to your followers, because you have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 followers on Facebook or Instagram. Like, what is your opinion on that as far as growing that following at this point?
Well, I can give you what Facebook would like me to say, or I can give you what an expert, like what the true strategy will be. So
Okay.
What Facebook is mostly pushing right now is Reels. They're pushing them across Facebook and across Instagram because, again, they're trying to compete with TikTok. So if you have Reels posts, a lot of, like, I'm one of them, but I'm like, most of my posts are Reels because those are the ones that Facebook is pushing and the ones that are most likely to get across the board. So one thing to do is Reels, but the main thing to grow an audience, not just any audience, but an audience that's going to engage, is to have content where you're talking about your audience pain points, you're relatable, you're talking about what is worrying them right now, and you're talking about the transformation that you provide.
Okay.
Give them good content where you're not selling, and give them some content where you're selling, but make sure you're not always like offering and selling because that's when you burn people out.
Right.
So have a strategy where you're like these 3 days, and you don't have to, like, businesses don't have to post every day. You can do this like 3 times a week. But you have a strategy where you're like, these 2 days, I'm going to give really good value, really good content, and this one day I'm going to sell. I'm going to send them to a freebie that I have or to book a call with me for a consultation. But what giving good content creates is that they're going to relate with you. That they're going to be like, oh, this person gets me, but they're giving me really good value. So when they feel the need for your services, for example, your financial services, who do you think they're going to go to?
Right.
You.
Right. No, that makes a ton of sense. So, yeah. So, okay. Well, that's, hey, listen, I really appreciate that insight, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. So, Ana, it's been great, having you share your story and talk a little bit about what you're doing and how it's different. So, if one of our listeners on the podcast, if they want to get a hold of you and talk to you about what you're doing for companies, at Ana Katz Digital, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me is you can go to, I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram at Ana Katz Digital, and you can also go to my website, anakatzdigital.com/contact, and that's how you can find me.
Okay. No, that sounds great, and I hope that I hope my listeners did get some value. I know I did, and I appreciate your time and you coming on, and I thank my listeners as well. This is another episode of the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast. Brought to you by Inspire Wealth. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, visit www.inspiredbusinessleaderspodcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.